Hello. Can you hear me? No. Let me see. I don't hear my mic, so I've got to change this. Let me know if you can hear me. I'm going to go through this because, of course, it's not working. Why would it ever work on the first go? Subscribers, live reactions, slow mode, anyone. Oh, you can hear me? Okay. Normally I have this little green bar that goes up when I talk, but apparently that's not working. So that's okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Lauren's Story. It's been a little bit. Lots been going on, as it always is around here. I'm so glad to have you guys showing up and talking about this today. We didn't get into a specific topic because what I really wanted to talk about was a couple of things, and we'll talk about all of them. So I'm sure that if you're in the Discord server, you've been hearing some discussions about what's going on with the eggs. So I just kind of want to address that. We're also going to talk a little bit about what's going on the app side of things because we've got news on that front. And also what's going on with FanX and possibly another breed. And even some of the stuff that's like with the clone dragons IDs and other things like that. So this is going to be a little bit more of nuts and bolts instead of like teasers and spoilers, if that makes sense. But by all means, we're an open book here. If you have some questions and you want to post them. We'll get to them because otherwise it should be fairly efficient and quick. I don't want to say quick, but we're just peeling back the onion. That's all we're doing. So here we go. Let's kind of like just get into it, shall we? So the first thing I want to talk about, I'm sorry if also my voice is a little raspy or if I look like I'm beat up or tired. I've been in the wilderness for the last couple of weeks. Not a couple of weeks, sorry, for the last couple of days. For like midweek on last week, I was up in the forest of like near Jackson Hole and doing a little whitewater rafting. So I might look tired. I'm actually pretty well rested. My voice is a little hoarse because I was also guiding some rafts down a river. No big deal. Anyway, so let's talk about the eggs. So if you're in the Discord server and you've seen some photos or people have been talking about stuff, we have been able to confirm on our end that there was a manufacturing defect. It was the way that the eggs were positioned in the egg, in addition to the amount of pressure that was put in them. So what's kind of happening is what we believe, and we'll confirm this, was that there were thin spots between the resin and the inner egg, and with the amount of pressure that everything was kind of sealed under, it just does what it does when pressure, and I think heat is one of those components that kind of activate this scenario. But the good thing is what we think that we've understand about this is, one, that we've actually updated our processes. So eggs, we have two different mold systems. It looks like most of these were all done, if not all of them. We haven't confirmed all of that yet. We're done on the original egg, not the updated process, and we'll go through that and confirm it. Two, we have some fixes in place that we'll be going through with a lot of the people that are doing that. So if that does pop up for you, I would just say this: keep your eggs in a cool place for now until we can tell you to put them on a fire and hatch them. but keep them in a, like, I would just say, temperature controlled space. Don't put them on like your windshields on the top of your car. Don't take them out on a hot day, because we do know with the air pressure that we've sucked out, because they were put under extreme pressure. Um, the liquid inside of it does expand, as it does when it heats up, and when it does that, there's not a lot of places for them to go. So they're looking for their. I mean, the good thing is this has happened now, and we've already been able to approach that and kind of remedy that. And we did that with new molds, some other processes to make it actually more balanced when we actually center the egg inside the mold, so that you get a much more even coating of resin, and it keeps that pretty locked. Just so you guys kind of know, I'll just share this with you. The tolerances on this were actually spec'd at a 1/2 inch. So was it a 1/2 inch, or might have been a 1/4 inch? But anyway, a 1/4 inch of resin all the way around. And so either way you look at it, that's a tremendous amount of resin. For those of you that are very familiar with that type of material or product, that's a significant amount. And once this stuff hardens, it is virtually indestructible. I mean, yes, it can break. Yes, it can be dropped. Yes, it can be hit with a hammer. But these are all things that we're hopefully not doing with our eggs. Anyway, I just wanted to give you guys that sort of state of the state that we've already addressed it internally. We shouldn't be seeing this problem moving forward, and we do have some fixes in place. Whether or not, Dragon Federation, we've already issued some other fixes, because I know that a lot of you live all over the place, and we're trying to make sure that we just protect the integrity of the original eggs. And that's all. For those of you that have already experienced those unfortunate accidents, I do believe that we'll be having a conversation. So hopefully, even possibly after this. But yeah, just want to let you know, it's like we're glad that you've been able to share that with you, and we're glad that we actually have some solutions to be able to move forward. So we'll be able to get this taken care of for you guys. It's not a big deal. At least we don't think that it's a big deal. It shouldn't be a big deal. But yeah, just to share. Dice is sharing in the chat that in the Discord, we do have a step-by-step instructions to do a self-repair with an approved resin. And yes, we did confirm it with our supplier that it is compatible. So some of you are hobbyists maybe, and you maybe have your own stuff, and you're just like, hey, I want to use my own stuff. If that's the case, we can talk about it, but it does require not a casting resin. I won't get into that right now because we don't need to. But if you're in the Discord, then I'm sure we can get that stuff answered for you. The second item, unless there's any questions. If you don't have any questions on that, then we can move on. But even if you do have questions, just hit them in the chat, and I'll address them. So the next one is the app. I want to preface this because I wish that I had like my podcast or like my green screen so that I could say, hey, we are moments away from publishing the app on both iOS and Google, on the Google Play stores. However, warning. This is the warning sign. Well, maybe I'll do that when after we're done. I'll just put that annotation on there. Hold on one second. I just got asked if there was a date range of the eggs. Yes, there is, and it was actually addressed really early on in our manufacturing process. I don't want to necessarily give those dates, and the only reason why is because a lot of the eggs are totally fine, and I don't want to create unnecessary worry or panic, if that makes sense. Like, oh my gosh, I'm in that batch, this is going to happen. Really, what the cause of it is, if you see some of the eggs, there was some centering issues. And I'm just addressing this because why not? Let's just share the world, because these were all problems that we were, not really problems, but um, consistencies that we wanted to rectify during the whole process, if that makes sense. So as we were doing the manufacturing process, we're like, hey, it looks like the eggs are having a hard time being centered. So we fixed that. We created a jig for that. And then we're like, hey, it looks like that the parting lines could be easier. And so it's like, hey, what if we created the molds like this? And so that iterative process continues to go forward. And the only reason why I don't want to say, oh, between this date and this date is because, again, there's a high probability that your egg hasn't experienced any of this. And with all the eggs that we've actually done, I think that we're kind of in the regular tolerance levels of like, I don't want to say failure because it's so small at this point, but between like a defect that forms within the manufacturing process. So if that's okay with you. I got to tell you, like, personally, I have early batches of eggs all over my house, and I've never had an issue. This is one that just sits on my desk, and again, like an early batch, never had an issue. The only one that I have actually seen an issue out of hundreds of eggs in our inventory are ones that were put under even more pressure. So like if boxes were stacked, those types of things. So, but I keep and some of them are not even in a climate controlled area here. And where we're at in Salt Lake City, just to give you guys an idea, it's 98 degrees, and I still haven't had those issues. But again, like, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but like if you're having the problems, we're doing our best to make sure that your issue is solved, that we've satisfied it to the best of our abilities, and that that we can just establish that we're an awesome company to work with. Yeah. So let's see the next thing, unless there's any more questions, but I can always come back to it. The app. So one of the things I was going to talk about on the app, like I said, we're a couple of days, if not hours, from the app being able to be published, or at least the early app. I know that there's some concerns about features in the app, but again, the warning sign here that I want to be flashing about this, that I need to annotate once we're done on this, is that the app is for driving customer interest and marketing channels. And here's what I mean by that. The back-end system that actually listens to your dragon. So when you're talking to it, when you're recording certain things, the time schedules that you're actually putting your dragon to bed or using the lullaby and those types of things, they're still not driving the actual care and growth of your dragon. So when the app is published, don't expect it to all of a sudden start the experience, right? We're still putting that piece of that together, but what we wanted to make sure that we wanted to have here is that the apps were already approved, that we've done all of our due diligence, our privacy policies, and everything else are accomplishing what they are. And then additionally, that we're telling the story properly about how the app is used, how the egg is used, and how the Oculus and the XR devices are all kind of working together. And so we're just kind of really working that ecosystem so that it's no longer a private thing, but it allows anyone that either buys an egg, wants an egg, or to be a part of this, can see that we are moving these things forward. We're kind of peeling back, opening up the curtains, making sure that you guys have your questions answered, and that we continually have these conversations, because there are features that we plan on having in there, like the vacation mode and similar things that happened with like the scale. I know that you guys were working on getting the scales into the website so that you can order those from the fob standpoint. But we have like the tracking on that so that you can have a tabletop view or vertical if you have an egg or if you're hanging it from a pendant. And we've been working on those types of things so that it works seamlessly with the product, that all the systems are in line and ready to go, and that we will make sure that you will be able to test this, because this will be a really good place for you guys to start to learn, and you'll start to see more lore coming out about. We've seen the conversations about, oh, how do I get a male? How do I get a female? Talking about alligators or other types of reptiles. What does that mean? Fire breathers, high altitude flyers, all the types of things that you guys are interested in learning more about. But this will give you a really good idea to be able to use that, plug into it, experience it, and you also have the capability to reset it on your own. So we've added some functionalities into this version, which will allow you guys to have a lot more control over this sort of testing phase, if you will. But our current initiatives are to get those published again so that we can start kind of driving the entire ecosystem, because we're still training people. You would be surprised. I'm surprised at how much I spend talking every single day about how we are more than a game, or not a game. And it kind of breaks a lot of people's brains, because it's like, well, you're on the Oculus, but I guess there's a physical egg. I'm not really sure what that means. And then you're on the mobile phone. But just like allowing these systems in this whole sort of experience to shape itself in a way that's very public facing, and that you can see what we're doing without us having to tell it or going to the Discord and asking the questions. So again, that's kind of the flashing warning here, because I know that you guys are chomping at the bit. I'm chomping at the bit. Our team's really excited about what we've been able to accomplish, what we put together. But yeah, we want to make sure that you know that your Dragon, even though the app's published, your Dragon still is without consequence, if that makes sense. It's not going to have any long-term effects on the Dragon. We can reset that Dragon, and there will probably be opportunities that once we get the other pieces running, the back end system on this is that you can, even if we decide to turn it on, you can elect to reset it, because that reset button will go away in the future, just so you know. So this is a good question, and I think this one is I want to address. Will we be able to see the young Dragon after hatching from a phone at all, or will it be exclusively screen on? Screen on fast VR is quite exhausting for me. Yeah. So the beauty about what we are doing is that it is AR, right? You don't need goggles. You don't need a headset to be able to do that. Now, we've said this before, that your interaction is going to be limited, but we do hope to have that with our capability in the Oculus, that you can take it back into your home once you're in VR, and then vice versa. That is one of the things that we are putting into this build. Likewise, you will be able to interact with your Dragon. Now, the difference is on your phone. The difference is this. We've gotten ourselves into a little bit of pickle, and I won't go into the details of it, but the systems in which drive the animation in the VR headset are different, and then the engine or what drives the animation system in the mobile app. So we'll keep you posted on that, but the absolute plan is that when it hatches, you should still be able to have your Dragon. If you are in your home with your Dragon, and you've set it up that way, that you should be able to see and have your Dragon walk around and interact. So that is one of the things that we plan on doing. Let's see. Will the time frame for hatching be the same as if it was live, but just the option to start over? And that the answer to the question is yes. I don't know if they've reset the full timelines. That is a really good question. I haven't been on the daily stand-ups because I've been working on some other things, but that is a really good question, because we already have we've slowed down, or we've sped up hatching stuff. So if you've been in, a lot of you have been in the beta, you've noticed that the longest that we've gone is 30 days. But the timeline for the dragon to actually hatch in the egg, right now we have slotted for 90 days. And I'm just sharing that with you. Like if your dragon doesn't go into incubation and you do a good job, or not incubation, but into stasis or hibernation or any of those types of things, then your dragon should hatch within 90 days. So that's kind of the timeline for that. Yeah, so we actually had to. I'll talk about this, Fennec. The application on the iPad is going to take some moments because we have to reformat everything. It still works. We've tested it, but we still have to reformat it, and that was one of the reasons why we were actually denied, because we were doing builds for the iPad. I don't know if you've been testing it on that or using it on that, but we actually removed that build, so the download won't be available for iPad yet, but just on iPhones and on Android. Let's see. What about an app exclusive for raising your egg and an app for the grown-up dragon? We don't really need two apps for that, to be perfectly honest with you. It's all going to be part of the same ecosystem, and we do plan on having the app being able to monitor the dragon, even if you're not going into VR specifically, to be able to look inside the VR world, kind of like you would like a doggy monitor or a cat monitor, those types of things. Still be able to interact with your dragon, do those types of things. And if you do bring it into your house, then you do have the ability to interact with it with the functionality or the limited functionality that the phone incurs, right? Because although we do have facial recognition, we can see your face and hear your voice and the expressions that you would be able to do there. Still, when you reach out and touch or pet and all that stuff, it has to be through the phone, because the technology doesn't quite allow that. So again, our biggest thing here is we're just driving the immersion process more than we are focusing on full functionality, because what we really are hanging our hat on here is that bringing dragons to life is a little bit more than just allowing them to be present. And that's kind of focusing on the interactivity and what really makes that experience unique. And so a lot of our product or feature roadmap for each one of the devices is really based on those types of things, if that makes sense. And you have been using it on your iPad. So I actually have iPads and I haven't done it on that. So you might have to send me some screenshots, because I would like to see what that looks like. And my devs would probably like to see what that looks like. So the question, are we making a PC app? Now, if you're talking about PC, like Tethered being on Steam for VR, that's a lot closer than we are necessarily if there will be just a PC version where you can use your mouse, tap on the keyboard. We do hope, like when we say platform agnostic, omni-platform, these types of things, we want it to be wherever you guys are, right? And we want to provide a very unique experience, but that also requires us to be very diligent, especially in the early phases of this, because obviously we spread ourselves out over multiple platforms, and then we have to service those platforms once this goes live. So we're going to keep it probably in the first year to these three that we're talking about. There might be an opportunity for an Apple Vision Pro, but that's just because of the nature of the builds, right? The PC versions may be able to come a little bit faster. So if you have like a Valve Index or even a PSVR, we are developing in an open source VR framework so that it allows us to publish to multiple different devices. However, with that being said, the builds still are very, very different. And the reason why I say that is because Oculus is a mobile platform, whereas like the Oculus Quest is a mobile platform, and it runs off of mobile computing and CPUs versus like a tethered PC, where for now we can have like, use the full brains of an NVIDIA or an AMD card to just render the world in ways that are as realistic as possible. And so that is obviously our goal. That's where we want to go with this, but we are also working within the limitations of the technology right now. So, I mean, we do have plans for all of that. I will say that, but we don't have any releasable dates that are going to be associated with when those things happen. So I'll just let you guys know that. And it's an interesting landscape. I'm not going to get into it, but like the VR manufacturers right now and the XR manufacturers, the landscape is shifting daily. It's an interesting place to be. It's an interesting space to be. And so we're positioning ourselves for a much larger opportunity, if you will, and positioning ourselves for the long term for that stuff. But let's see, will there be smaller eggs for different species in the future? I have a family member obsessed with my eggs. But they are large for a 7-year-old to be towed around. Yeah. So here's the beauty about our breeds, right? I mean, you've seen the pygmies. Short answer is yes. Not all the eggs are going to be as big as this one. Remember, the mountain skull is one of the largest breeds that we've come across so far. We know that cute and cuddly is a big part of this. The response to the pygmies have been incredible, by the way. So thank you for that. We still haven't published those even on our social media channels. So we're not really even sharing the full breadth of like the collagen pygmy. But the team, what we've been able to put together, it's fantastic. And so there are going to be smaller eggs. We have been working on them, even if they are collectible versions for the pygmies, if that makes sense, that don't necessarily require you to use it as a hatching process, but it is something as a collectible, because we are seeing the physical items that we offer with this. I mean, from the dragon scale and on, like, it seems to be a really, I don't want to say like a hot button issue, because it's not, but it's a very attractive part of the offering, right? And so we want to keep that as consistent as possible, and have a wide variety and diverse offering within there. So as we really kind of kick this into overdrive, you're going to see us starting to release new breeds and species. I don't want to say species, but new breeds pretty regularly. Because we also, we think that they're also going to sell out fairly quickly too, as they get bigger. So I hope that answers your questions, which obviously would make it easier for a 7-year-old to tote around. I know, because I have 2 of those in my house. But with that being said, they still have their mountain skull egg sitting in their bed. They don't really carry it around with them, but they do bring their friends over and say, look at my dragon egg. And then they look at them like dragons don't exist. And then we have to get into that whole thing. But yeah, it's pretty great. But yeah, we will have different size eggs for sure. Let's see. Oh, I like this. For future monetization, I love that conversation. I know we will have the caregiver being a sub, but has the team discussed any other paid options for continued revenue outside of physical objects, cosmetics, etc.? So Ferex, if you are unaware of our plan beyond physical objects, then we have done a bad job. And maybe it's just because we're so focused on what we're doing right now that we're not really discussing so much of the future. But we plan on having this stuff be very much readily available. I mean, one of the things that's very important for us, especially when we have the marketplace live, both on the app and that is connected to the Dragon Realm marketplace, those are places where not only where we are working diligently to vet companies right now to be able to create UGC materials, whether it be with the generative AI that's coming out. And I'm sure that you guys are all aware of this stuff, but like the 3D modeling and even animation and the ability to skin photoreal objects. I mean, it's getting crazy, right? In the sense that you can take your LiDAR on your phone, you should be able to scan an item in your house and then put it in your digital like basically create a digital twin of your room and put it in your stable in VR. This is absolutely something that we want to do, right? And we're monitoring this stuff very, very closely. The biggest thing that we have to do is, again, Oculus right now is performance driven, and so a lot of the models that are created in this sort of space, if you will be creating it. But again, we're trying to put as much in your guys' hands as possible so that you guys have the tools of creation. That's really where we want to get to, so that hey, you knitted a sweater, knitted, right? And whether you actually made a real object because you knit sweaters and then you photo scanned it, to be able to put that on your dragon or on your avatar and then be able to sell it, if you wanted to, at some of the marketplaces or the bazaar. That's actually where we want to go with this. And from a monetization standpoint, yeah, not relying on if you were to actually look at our performas and what we're actually going to be doing, the physical portions of this is actually going to be some of the smaller revenue drivers. We just look at it as the cool part of it, right? Because you could actually have these things and keep them in your house. But like the digital aspects of this, whether it be skins on your dragon, tattoos, other types of things that you may want to decorate, as we do in the digital space, to kind of personalize and make that. But we want to make that available, as well as even the ability to buy resources or different types of foods, meals, preps, all that kind of stuff. The toys and the training materials as well that are going to be used with your dragon. There's some roadmap for all of that. But then the Pandora's box goes big, right? Because we're not just, when we look at this, we're not just I don't even want to say game, because it's not that. We're definitely in the AI companion space. And when you look at the opportunities that you have for your in real life animals, yeah, those are the things that we plan on doing with this. So yeah, there will be lots of opportunities for that, and I appreciate that. Appreciate that suggestion for sure. Let's see. Buying a heartbeat, an Xmas full of eggs and stockings. Yeah, the stocking bundle, right? Yeah, those are some other things that we want to do as well, to be able to pair that stuff with merch, so that you guys can get yourself some gear. If you want to represent the Dragon Federation brand, wear it proudly, do that type of stuff, because we have lots of shirts, lots of hoodies, which kind of leads me into my next thing. And so I'll just take that segue. And if you have any additional questions, please put them in there and I'll go back through and answer them. But when it comes to the website, merch, some other things, we've got all of this stuff that we're trying to get ready. We are just trying to update our shipping partners, because we realized that we were put into a kind of a pigeonhole with our other one. Although we did get some great international rates, some other things were happening there. What's happening is that we don't have the flexibility to designate different packages and allow you guys to like select that by weight or by package size. And so a lot of you that have been buying the Clone Dragon, you're seeing shipping rates that aren't necessarily associated with the actual cost for that. And so this is one of the reasons why we haven't been pushing this stuff as much, because we're trying to make sure that that's fixed, because shipping, right? We are having discussions with Amazon, and I don't know how any of you would feel about that, because they are such a massive company, but even possibly being a fulfillment arm of Dragon Federation, which would be really great, because then you could just use your Prime account and use Prime shipping, and there you go. But yeah, we're working on a lot of those things. Lego armor, I love it. But yeah, that also leads me to, while we're talking about like the website, like the scale, right? The Dragon scale to be able to use within the apps and those types of things, but more specifically the Clone Dragon. We got a little bit excited on our side about the fact that we could offer another type of dragon that could be more infinite for people that wanted a lower cost option. What happened is that our backend dev said, "Hey, you might want to use a code for this." And we're like, "We don't need a code because it's not individual." And then after we released the product, we're like, "Nope, it is individual." So what we are doing is we are going back retroactively, and we are adding in the so each dragon, doesn't matter if it's digital or if it's not, it's going to have its own dragon code. And that's because all the training is still going to be the same, right? It's got to learn its own identity, and it's got to learn you, and those things all have to be tracked as well as recorded, especially when you have multiple dragons. So we're going back through right now to make sure that anybody that ordered a clone dragon will be issued a dragon code specifically for their dragon. So unfortunately, right now, you'll probably still be using a temp one, especially when the app goes live. But just know that there is a fix coming, and you will be either emailed or even snail mailed a copy of your dragon code once it's available. So before the whole thing goes live anyway, meaning with the backend systems all in place, you guys will all be made whole on that part. So your individual identifiers with your dragon code will be updated. But it doesn't prevent you. So if you're like, "Oh, I wanted to get a clone," you don't have to wait. It's not going to be a priority thing or anything like that. Once the system's implemented and generated, it's just going to be populated into our database, and then we'll go ahead and issue those to you. So the pygmies, that's a good question. Like, we plan on doing it with the pygmies, but just for our own tracking purposes. But whether or not you'll need them will be another thing. We might be able to just register that by its name to you, but we'll see. Right now, we're looking at issuing those across the board. So any dragon that's purchased comes with a dragon code, and that's just going to make it easier. So if anything changes, like if another pygmy breed does come with a physical object, or if it's allowed to be bred and those types of things. So we're just getting in the habit of making sure that we're doing it right, because it doesn't change our process much. It just makes it easier for everybody on the back end when they don't have to ask the questions and be worried about it. So I want a dragon war paint. Really need to get making a new egg carrier. Love it. Yeah, so currently, Beast Whisperer, if you weren't familiar, we are actually already shipping, and we've got some people, mostly European and Australia, Canada, and the United States. We've shipped, we've got people in Denmark, we've got people in England, in the UK, in France, in Germany, in Switzerland. We've shipped to all these countries so far. So that's already happening, and including Australia. I think we might have one in New Zealand. Yeah, so the only ones that we really haven't been focused on, and wow, I gotta looking at my eyebrows, they almost look like that they're pointed dastardly. The only places that we haven't really been focused on as much is the South America, Africa, and Asia. And there's a specific reason for that, more specifically to the types of breeds that we want to announce for those territories. But yeah. Let's see. Dragon IDs. Yep, Dice is just kind of filling that up. Or display stands for the eggs. So the box is showing sitting on early. Yeah, so our lead fabricator has been hounding me on this. That was something that we always wanted to do. And we were always planning on it because the original eggs didn't stand up right on their own. And it's funny because when we created this batch and we did the mold design, we did it specifically so that the eggs would stand so that you didn't have to buy another thing. That was us just trying to not nickel and dime the scenario as much as it was just trying to make it easier for you guys. But with that being said, I know that a stand has been asked for in a lot of different ways, even if it's a simple ring or if it's like a clawed hand, right? And those types of things. We do plan on having those. We do have some solutions and some prototypes that we've been testing. But yeah, these will all be part of that sort of rollout. We also think that there's quite a demand in addition to that, like even birth certificates, hanging, like these types of things that are framed, even like kind of photos of events, right? So like when you're dragging hatches or those types of things, to be able to get like these sort of keepsakes of these moments, and have them recorded in a physical way. Maybe an integration with Shutterstock or Shutterfly. We'll see. But yeah. Can we all, let's see, what is this? Can we buy all type? You bring Dragon online if you revenue. Okay. So that is a really great question, and I just mumbled that, so I forgive you. So Beast Whisperer just asked if we introduce another breed for another territory, if you guys will be able to be available for that. So the plan on that is, the simple answer is yes. However, I will say this with a caveat. We are working, and even working with FanX, and it looks like that there is a very high probability that we are going to introduce a new breed at FanX. That FanX breed is something that has been teased, and there's also a good chance that it is going to be an exclusive offering, which means that if you go to FanX, that's where you'll have the chance to get it. And that's because it's a partnership with another organization, which means that we are going to be in a revenue share situation or something like that, where like the partnership that's enjoined with a company like FanX or another event, because FanX actually has at least 5 different events around the United States, and we are toying with the idea that certain breeds, especially if the partners want to do this, can be an exclusive for their in-person. Now, even if we do put it online, it will be available for anybody up to obviously the rarity number, how big the clutches are, and then just their limited ability factor anyway. And so I will say that breeds that are available in other territories should be available for everybody to be able to buy them. It doesn't matter where around the world. However, there will be exclusive breeds that will be only available to those people that are in person at those events. Or at least it seems like it's shaping up that way. And yeah, we'll have more to discuss there. All the hobbits. I love it. Yeah, that kind of takes us to, I guess, the last sort of bit of this, right? Which is the FanX. We're having a conversation today, and not today, I'm sorry, this week, with hopefully kind of finalizing that deal. And if we can get that finalized, we should be able to be at FanX. It will be a really fun event for any of you that are near the Salt Lake area. We'll certainly advertise for it so you can get out here. But hopefully we will also use the Salt Lake one as kind of the pilot program. And if we're successful here, then we hopefully will be traveling with them to all of their different events. And that should be able to open up a lot of new partnerships for us to be able to do things like Dragon Con, for some of the other like Ren fairs and other types of things that are around. Because the one thing that we know about this, and it's funny, I just had a conversation with one of our newest board members today about this, is that the real wow of the product comes when people are holding the egg, they see the dragon in the goggles for the first time, and they interact with it, and then they start to realize that it's like, it's different than what they thought it would be like, in the sense of, I can be in my natural space and I can be interacting with other people and interacting with my dragon, and it feels very satisfying and weird and creepy, because dragons don't exist, but they do. And so, like, our big in-person events are a big part of what we want to do, because there's just a power of being in that community, right? Like, you guys see like the interactions that you guys have, you probably know people by their first Discord name basis. And that's because there's a lot of chatter around it and those things going on. But there will be things that happen in our live events that you will only be able to experience there. And so we are trying to drive that event schedule as something special, something to be a part of, because we do want to preview certain features and products and be in those types of things and tease those things. Just like at Comic-Con, they tease trailers or things that have never been seen before, and premiere footage, other types of game releases. We full on plan on doing the same thing, because the power of our product certainly is different. One, when it's engaged with the community, and then two, when it's experienced in the real world. So that's just a big part of our schedule. Yeah, when you say it's more like the time exclusivity, it's probably more like that. But the one thing that I will say about you guys have experienced this before, and we've talked about it a lot, like even with the Mountain Skull Dragon. When we have the breeds, like the rarities available, and this is one of the reasons why we haven't done those types of sales anymore, because our higher end, like our higher rarity products, they go so fast. And if we didn't limit those, like, none of you would have a chance to be able to get them, because they would be sold out. They would be absolutely sold out by now. And like, the amount of wildflowers that we have sold to date, it's crazy. It is like our number one selling egg. And that's why, I anticipate when we talk about whether it's exclusivity or those types of things, remember, like, FanX was reporting, I think their attendance last year was like 150,000 people. And when you think about, like, whether it's 1,000 people purchasing an egg, 2,000 people purchasing an egg, it's not going to take much for these things to sell out. And especially as the word really truly starts to spread, that exclusivity is just going to get, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be exciting. Actually, it's going to be really interesting and exciting. I'm excited to see it, for one. Getting one when breeding comes out is an option too, for sure. I mean, that's the beauty about this, right? Because our dragons that are exclusive will also more than likely be breedable, so that you will have the opportunities to get those. But that's going to be up to you guys, right? And that's, again, we kind of have come full circle how we talked about, like, what we want to build and how we want to build it, but really kind of put the power in your guys' hands to be able to make the tools and the things that you want to do. Let's see. Well, with plans for tuner breeds, gatekeeping less than tuner breeds are exclusive. Looking forward. I'm just going through all this. Tuner breed, yeah. Yeah, I mean, all of these things are true that you guys are talking about. And, the one thing that we're trying to really avoid is that it's not that we're really trying to avoid it, but like again, when we look at our dragons as a part of our family or a part of something else, because with this new technology and the way that we're going to be able to experience our digital ownership life, to have that sort of interaction with each other, uh, you know, do you want to sell off your kids? Obviously, when you have a clutch, that's a different story, right? And it'll be fun to see what happens in that. But like breeding is definitely going to be a huge, huge, huge part of this. So, love that. You're in Hawaii. Have we shipped some stuff to Hawaii? Yeah, we have shipped some stuff to Hawaii. So, well, you guys, we did it. We did pretty much an hour. So if there's any more questions that you have, please put them in the comments or jump back onto the Discord. We are getting to the place, like, please, we are still doing the fundraising. I haven't forgotten about you guys. We haven't come back to it because there's still some stuff that we've been talking to with the institutional investors. But if you are interested in being a part of Dragon Federation or being an owner in Dragon Federation, please reach out if you haven't done so already. And we'll see if we have some options that work with you. But otherwise, again, like, thank you again for supporting this project. It has like been so fun and absolutely crazy on so many levels. I cannot wait to peel back the behind the scenes and the curtain on what's especially gone on in the last 2 years, because it is a wild biopic, if you will. If you haven't seen like the Tetris movie, go watch that as a parting gift, because that movie, I feel like I'm living that to a certain degree, even though I'm not dealing with communist Russia. But I feel like I'm living that. It's an incredible story about just how this stuff gets made, how, like, whether it's good, bad, difficult, all of those types of things. Anyway, again, thank you so much for being a part of this. I love everything about it. I love even when we have defects and solving the problems. So I appreciate you guys supporting this project and continue to do so. So thank you so much for being here, and we'll talk to you soon.